Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with our series on Aristotle's Poetics. In this video we're going to be looking at reversal and recognition, two essential elements of a complex plot for Aristotle. Now, Aristotle makes a distinction between two kinds of plots, the simple and the complex. Both of them involve a change of fortune of the central character. However, the complex plot does so through what Aristotle calls reversal and or recognition, while the simple plot does neither. Now, the first element that makes a complex plot is the reversal of expectations. This occurs when some action is expected to have one result, but in fact has the opposite result. When the action of the plot veers around to the opposite, as Aristotle says. This might happen when an action meant to do someone harm actually helps them, or the opposite. This is sometimes also referred to as situational irony, where the audience or the character's expectations for the outcome of an action are reversed. You expect to do one thing, but you in fact do the opposite. Such reversals can be found throughout modern stories. The trope of the villain being created by the hero's past attempts to do good and failures, or the hero being created by the villains attacking the wrong family. Again, it's the idea of someone trying to do something, the action attempting to do something, and that turning around and blowing up in their face, effectively. Basically, an action intended to do one thing does the opposite. That's a reversal. However, given Aristotle's focus on a single action, or the unity of plot, this is particularly concentrated here. In modern storytelling, we can have multiple different kinds of actions that are happening at the same time, and so one of them turning around to its opposite doesn't mean there's not 5 others that are still going on. However, for Aristotle, there's one action, and we're really zoomed in and focused on that action. So this is the turning point, and this kind of trope is the turning point of the whole action. The action seems to be going along well, and then suddenly the action attempts to do something, and it all turns around to the opposite direction and is the main turning point of the story. So it's, while more central for Aristotle, is also seen in kind of modern theater. Recognition is the movement of the character from ignorance to knowledge, which may cause joy or despair. For Aristotle, the best kind of recognition is the recognition of a person. The recognition for Aristotle can coincide with the reversal of fortune or not. And it can coincide with kind of that reversal that we're talking about. So it may be the case that in recognizing someone, you realize that your action didn't have the intended effect, or it may be a separate occurrence from kind of the reversal of fortune. Examples include things like Oedipus realizing that it was his father that he killed, Sweeney Todd realizing that the beggar he killed was his wife, Luke realizing Vader was his father, Ernest realizing the importance of being earnest all along. These kinds of tropes throughout theater. Once again, more important for Aristotle, and Aristotle makes this a central element of a complex plot, but still an important element today, just perhaps not as important, and not necessary in the way that Aristotle thought it was necessary. Aristotle outlines 5 different kinds of recognition and ranks them for his preference of what are the worst and the best. The lowest is the recognition of signs or birthmarks, because this seems contrived and can kind of be thrown or shoehorned in. The next lowest is where characters simply reveal themselves to be who they are. They state their name and explain that, and that causes the recognition from ignorance to knowledge. The third is where the emotions that a character shows upon viewing an old memento or a friend, but doesn't outwardly state who they are, and someone realizes, oh, you are this person. The second best is through reasoning, where characters piece together multiple pieces of information to come up with a conclusion that this person is who they are. And the best method, according to Aristotle, is not contrived and is driven solely by the plot and not kind of artificially shoehorned in. While these different kind of rankings of what Aristotle thinks of the best way for you to recognize someone is may seem a little bit like, why are we even thinking about them? Why do we even care about them today? They're clearly him just documenting tropes of the time. It is important to look at this through the lens of one of Aristotle's central theses here, which is that the plot is the most important thing, and all of the action should be driven by the plot and not kind of artificially pulled in and shoehorned in, which has at least some proponents in modern literary criticism and modern ideas here. And today, that you shouldn't be just throwing in something like, oh, it was a birthmark, oh, it was these kind of overused tropes that it should be driven by the plot. While recognition is a common trope in modern literature, it's not as essential as it was to Aristotle. Similarly, while reversals are a common method for twisting and turning the plot, they're merely one of many tools at an author's disposal. While Aristotle succeeded in documenting the tropes of his time, he could not have imagined the extent to which storytelling would expand in the following millennia, and the cornucopia of tropes and methods for moving the plot we have developed since then. Next up, we will be looking at what is catharsis, one of the central words that is kind of minted by Aristotle, and terms and ideas that he put into the common knowledge that is still used to this day and still thought of to this day as a central element of theater and literature, as well as a central kind of pin in his arguments against Plato's kind of derision of theater. So, stay tuned for that video, watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.